Hey everyone, I'm Cynthia LaShawn, and you're watching Take TV, and I'm here with fashion stylist and creative director and Detroit native Marv Neal. How are you?
Hey, what up, though? What's going on?
Thank you again for coming on our set, coming to the show.
Anytime.
So, being that you're a fashion designer and creative director, and you work in fashion, how do you describe what do you do to people? What do you do to people?
I change people's lives, really. Whether it's something small, it could be a little suggestion, or it could be something big where it's a full-on production. So, depending on what you need, it could be a text message, it could be a full email, it could be a big production, it could be something small. So it all depends on what's needed from me. But I pretty much feel like I change people's lives.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, why do you feel like fashion is so life changing?
Well, I mean, we all know that fashion makes everybody feel good. You know, everybody like to get fresh. I think even people that try to act like they don't care about it, they care about it. I think fashion is just a thing. It could be something small. It can be an accessory. It could be a shoe. You know, it could be whatever it is you like. Some people are shoe people, accessory people, or love the full clothing, the whole aspect of it. So it depends on whoever you are, whatever it is that you like. But I ultimately feel like it makes everybody feel good.
So, how did you get started into it? Did you always saw yourself as working in fashion? Like, where did it all begin?
Where it all began, I've always seen myself working in fashion. I just didn't know what avenue I wanted to do in it. So, of course, initially, you think you want to work retail. So once you conquer retail, you kind of like, this ain't really what I want to do. I mean, it's cool. But you initially, I've always, okay, so at first I wanted to be a fashion designer. Then when I found out that you had to sit behind a sewing machine for 1,000,000 hours and stuff, I was like, okay, I don't want to do that.
It's like, this not for me.
Yeah, so then around 13, 14, I found out who Misa Hilton Brim, Sybil Penix, Groovy Lou, which were all of these people that were doing this hip hop and R&B, New Jack Swing thing with Mary J. Blige and Lil Kim and all of these people, Biggie. And I was like, oh, that's what they do. They dress people. Because it would be like fashion stylists, or, you know, had different little monikers inside of the old album covers. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I think that's what I want to do. So by the time I got to high school, I knew for sure that's what I wanted to do.
Is that what inspired your first job? Like many local Detroiters, your first job is either usually it's at Eastland.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier how your first job was there at the Gap, correct?
Yeah, at the Gap.
I didn't even know it was a Gap there.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
what?
It was the Gap across the hall from, I don't know, they had a different layout, but it used to be the old building. It was a smaller, right by the exit door. Then they moved where probably when you were working there, it was a 4 men, then it was a Foot Locker, then a 4 men, or 4 men, then a Foot Locker. So they were there. I worked there from like 99 to 2000, well, 98 to 2000, 98 to 99. While I was going to Wayne State and just trying to figure out, do I want to keep working retail and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, I'm not really making no money. And it's not fashion styling, but it's still kind of like wardrobing. So, yeah.
Did it still kind of give you some ideas within fashion working at the Gap?
Of course, it helped me be able to, dressing the mannequins made me be able to assess the situation quicker or edit faster. So if I'm going to pull for something big, it helps me with walking into a room knowing exactly if I need that or that works for what I'm looking for. So it kind of goes into your eye detailing when you work in retail, especially back then, because it was a lot of, at that time, it was them starting to see that fashion was this big money thing. I mean, the 80s and the early 90s they knew, but it was starting to become urbanized and more corporate. So, of course, it made it be like, oh, okay. Now it's them showing you how, or giving you a manual to show you how to wardrobe or just get more into it, more on the business side. So, yeah, it helped me a lot. I can honestly say it helped me a lot.
So did you study fashion while you was at Wayne State?
A little bit, but I never got all the way into my major. So I got accepted to Parsons School of Design, but I didn't attend because this was back a long time ago before Project Runway or all of the other, kind of, things that's going on now with fashion. So I kind of got into it, but it was like I kind of ran away from it, but I was still kind of doing it. And then I kind of came back to it, like most people do.
So what was it like when and what made you come back into it? 'Cause a lot of times people are like, oh, I have this passion for it, but they never come back to it.
So really, it was like what happened was I was working for the city of Detroit as a lifeguard, which I wound up doing for 20 years. But I was working for the city of Detroit as a lifeguard, and I broke my ankle in 2010. So, for 4 months, you can't do nothing but sit there and think about what you want to do. So, and within those 4 months, it was like more and more TV shows, more and more Project Runway, more and more stuff that I was into. So I was like, well, I had made a promise to myself and God that when I get better, my ankle get better, I'll go into a full-fledged, and that's what I wound up doing. But like I always kind of dabbled, like my little cousins and them rapped, and I've always had a lot of clothing, so they would like have me dress them for their stuff or tell me what to wear, tell them what to wear. I'm sorry, and then it was kind of like that, like like meeting photographers, but not really meeting, sending clothes to shoots, but really wasn't there. So right after I broke my ankle, I really like went back to it, and I've been stuck with it ever since.
And it's like around the 2010s.
Yeah, like I mean, it was a little bit earlier. It could have like really starting like '06 where I started getting back into it. I have a friend named Bianca. She was modeling, so I was helping her with her shoots. Then my little cousins and them had a rapping group called DMB. We're right up the street on the north end. Shout out to them. They still doing some music a little bit here and there, but they were, kind of like, well, you got all the clothes. We don't have to go to the mall, so you might as well dress us. You know what I mean?
So where did you get the clothes from?
I was just a shopper. I mean, I worked to shop. That's what I did. I worked for the city of Detroit as a lifeguard, and I might have had like a job at OnStar. You know how it is in your 20s. You're young, you working, having fun, going out. I wasn't in school, so I had all day to work. So I might work a job from 6 to 2 and then another job from 3 to 10. Still had time to go out and do it all over again. So, yeah, the clothes came from me just shopping. I worked 2 checks.
And so what you was doing with your cousin and your friends, that what you just called just styling, fashion styling.
Yeah, it was fashion styling. It was, just going to the mall with them. We were all still going out, so it was easy to be like, oh, we going to the mall. What you wearing? And I'd be like, well, I'm wearing this. And I think you should wear that. And it was like men and women.
So what's your process when eyeing clothes and fitting each person? Because each person is not the same.
Well, to me, for what I do, shape always plays a big point. And also just knowing what your client likes. You know what I mean? Like you may say, I look absolutely horrible in white, but I might see that white look good on you, especially if you wear the right garment. So it's about giving and taking. When I usually work with clients, I usually say if you don't like white, I might bring you all black and then bring you like 2 white pieces and just see how you react to them. And then say if it's a photo shoot, well, try these on for me, and I'll just make sure that they're heavily styled, the right shoe, the right belt or glove or whatever, the right hairdo, and it just makes somebody feel good. Back to the beginning of what you said, like it makes them feel good. So yeah.
No, I read somewhere, and I always believe like fashion. If you look good, you feel good.
Exactly.
And somebody said like fashion, like your clothes can have energy.
Yeah, I believe that.
So what you wear can really affect your whole vibe.
Yeah.
So that's why I try when I'm at home. I try not to like buy too many sweats, even though it'd be cute.
Yeah.
But it can make you put on the energy like I want to relax, I want to chill.
But then how you do that is you buy some sweats like, like the $5 Hanes that's at like Dollar General. Get you a $5 pair of jogging pants and then put some heels on. Some pumps. And then a rocker tee, and then throw a blazer on over it, and then you got a full look. That way you still cozy, but then you still look like if I go to the bar, I'm gonna look nice.
So what do you say to people And you mentioned something like $5 tees and you being resourceful. So what do you say to people, especially since we're a little recessy?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, not first recession, but
Yeah, yeah. We almost there.
We're almost there.
It's on its way.
So how did you like? Some people like I don't have enough money to shop or look good. Like, what would you say to that person? Like tips for them?
Just find what you like and works for you with style. You know, it's all about having style. So it doesn't have to be a lot of money. It just has to be nice pieces. You know what I mean? It has to be the correct, blazer or overcoat, the correct T-shirt, or even the correct jean. And knowing your sizing, I think sizing plays a big part. If you're a real big person, trying to swallow yourself in clothing, and oversized clothing doesn't hide that you're big. So you might as well get the clothing that fits you, not nothing that's super tight, but just like what fits you. Undergarment stuff, undergarment installs are important for women. You know, even for men, having on the correct undergarments, correct underwear. So yeah, I mean, it's just that little stuff that helps with what you may have gems in your own closet. You know, it could be the smallest little thing. You know, a lot of people wear black, but they might not be wearing the right black. You know, so.
So it's levels to this, you guys.
Yeah.
And so mid 2000s, you're working with your friends and your cousins. So how did you transition to other parts? Because you could have just stayed in styling, but you're a jack of you multifaceted.
Yeah, so it was just kind of like, so it started from us going to the clubs, going to the parties, finding something to wear to go downtown or out in Birmingham. And then I broke my ankle, like I said, in the middle of the combo, and I kind of was like, well, I need to build a portfolio because I don't have one. So I met, it used to be a group called the E. Rollins Group that was here in the city. Shout out to Ebony Rollins. And it was a couple of us that were trying to do styling and hair, makeup. And a lot of those people are still at it to this day. And then I moved from that and was doing stuff on my own. And it was just kind of like, I didn't really know what to do. I just kind of figured what the people in New York used to do. It wasn't a lot of books out at the time back then, 15 years ago. So it was just kind of like what I thought that the people at Vibe magazine did, what I thought that Vogue people did. And I just started shooting a portfolio. I would gather clothes from the thrift store, from boutiques, all the way up until I moved up to be able to pull from bigger stores. But I always started at where I had to start. So I just had to start somewhere.
So how do you pull? Like, what exactly pulling for people who don't know that word?
So pulling is really basically going into a store, whether it's Neiman Marcus, Macy's, or even a regular boutique, and you're basically putting a credit card down or buying and returning the clothes back. But most of the time, putting a credit card down, basically saying that I'll bring these back in good health, and you won't have to charge me for them. So that's for press junkies, but it's PR firms. It's shout out to there's two showrooms that's here now, but back when I started, it wasn't any. So shout out to Dawn Green. She has a showroom down on Jefferson, and then it's another one. I just spoke to the young lady. I'm sorry, she's probably gonna kill me when she sees this, but she has a showroom also. So it's a lot of different people that's trying to pop up with the showroom thing. And a lot of people run into, like, their grandmother may have old Chanel, aunt might have old St. John, and it's like, you don't want to sell it to thrift, you don't want to give it away. So someone like me is always looking for that kind of stuff for clients and for photo shoots and everything. So
you keep it? Like
no, so when you pull, you rent it, basically rent it out. So you rent it out for maybe 3 days, and then you're taking it back, returning it. So for magazines and stuff, you get to pull for like personal stuff, concerts, or if you got a celebrity client that you work with, you usually work with a designer, or the fashion houses will send you clothing, and then you get to use it.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So you learn something new every day. I kind of was curious, like, okay, pull like this, borrow, they make a
So
deal with them.
it's borrowing, but it's basically like you are. It comes from having good relationships with stores, returning stuff without makeup on it, returning stuff with the tags on it.
So that what happens when is mistakes happen. So maybe
So you have to have you have to have money to get it cleaned and hope that it's comes back the same way that you got it. So that when you take it back to the main store, it's not damaged. That's if the store allows you to do so. Some stores have a restocking fee, which is basically if you take the tags off, get makeup on it, they may charge you like $30 a garment. Or they, depending on how damaged it is, you'll pay the full balance for the garment.
Oh, wow.
So you have to be careful as a stylist.
Yeah, it can
So-
get really pricey if you're not careful.
Yeah, it gets very, very, very pricey.
That's the extra charge you add to the client.
Yeah, yep.
So
Sure do.
if you stain it, you buy it, you
If
guys.
you stain it, you buy it. They know it too.
So, like, okay, so you got the portfolio together, self-made it,
Yeah.
and what happens after you build the portfolio?
So after I built the portfolio, the first major thing was, well, it was basically getting into publication. So it was like Vibe.com was like with Timothy Paul was one of my first big things. And then it just kind of like built, and then people were asking for my services. So fast forward, I'll say 3 or 4 years to the Toni Braxton job. So I wound up styling Toni Braxton for Shane Park. But she just came off of her Vegas tenure, so she had a full team. But on her rider for Detroit, she asked for a stylist from here. So Piper Carter, which is a lady that's a photographer, philanthropist, all kind of like dope stuff for the neighborhood. You should have her on here. She has a dope podcast, by the way. She hired me to do a shoot to work with Toni Braxton because we had just shot with rapper Miss Corona. So Miss Corona was in 8 Mile, and she was getting ready for the release, a press junket for her mixtape. So Miss Corona hired me to do her styling, and Piper shot it. So Piper wound up hiring me for the Toni Braxton. So after the Toni Braxton, things started like, trickling in more and more and more.
And it sounds like it's really, really comes from like not only just being the best at what you're doing, but also relationships.
Yeah, relationships plays a big part in everything in the industry. Because if you had a boutique, and I came and pulled from you, and I brought everything back damaged, then the next time it's time for me to work, you ain't gonna want to work me. So it's about relationships. It's about keeping your name clean, showing up on set on time. I show up. I think people that know me expect me to show up to be like silly and laughy, Marvy, and I show up and I be just as quiet and professional and my all black on and staying out the way, getting in where I fit in and changing and fixing, and then that's that.
So, because I remember before we started filming, I was asking like, what made you stay in Detroit? Because you're a Detroit-based stylist.
Detroit-based stylist.
So, what made you stay in Detroit? A lot of people, the minute they'd be like, all right, I'm going to New York. I'm going.
Yeah, I wanted to. I wanted to. And then I was at the correct age. I was like 29, 30. So I was an adult. You know what I mean? I would have been able to take care of myself. I just think that, New York is high. My cousin is there, so I would go all the time for like Fashion Week, and I would be there. But I wanted to go because I thought I had to be there to do what I'm doing. So the reason why I didn't go is because Alexander Allen and Piper Carter kind of was like, you come here, you might be working 3 jobs. You might not even get a chance to do styling because it's such an oversaturated. At that time, it was kind of like a low drop for everyone. So yeah, I just wound up staying. I'm glad I did because after about 5 years, I was ready to go.
Really?
Yeah, I was ready to go. But now I'm like,
it's such a boom. Like, it's so much happening now.
It is.
And how do you describe Detroit's fashion scene? A lot of people don't know Detroit have an up-and-coming, really established fashion scene.
It does. I feel like it's nice. I love to see the creativity come from here. I like that we don't have to go nowhere to show our creativity. I like that you can now get the fabrics that New Yorkers have access to just online. And I like that there's some designers here that are super dope that has done great things that I've worked with as well. So I just think the more stuff that we get here, the more that we'll have and you'll see. You know what I mean? I think it's a dope thing. I like to see it. I think that the climate here, and I think I like it. I mean, I don't have a specific word for it, but I like to see the energy of it. Yeah, I like it a lot.
I always feel growing up, I feel as if Detroit, we have our own style.
Oh, we
like
do.
we have our own je ne sais quoi. I
Yeah, we
can't
do.
put my finger on it.
It's just fly. It's hard to, like New York, Harlem people swear that they do their thing, but it's like,
But we have the Cartier buffs.
it's just
We have
Detroit.
the furs.
We have everything. It's just like Detroit has a certain way that we flow. You know what I mean? It might have something to do with the water.
Yeah, it might be something in the water.
You know, the water is a fresh flowing water. I don't know. It's hard. I've been all over. I've worked everywhere. I've been to New York. I love I'm never gonna take nothing from New York because I love to see them get busy. I love how they swag and bop too, but they can't out bop us.
So I have a quick fire shot question.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
What's your 3 pieces of a Detroiter starter pack outfit pieces? Like 3 major pieces are like, oh yeah, that's
From
where
a
it's
certain era or like now, because
It could be both.
from a certain area. So you have to have access to a pair of Cartiers, whether it's wires, buffs, a fur coat, because I feel like even if you dress it up or dress it down, man or woman, like a man can have on just denim, a white V-neck, a decap, some Timberlands, and be like, you know what I mean, with they mink on. Same with a woman. A woman can have on a white, some ripped jeans, a couple of bangles, a dope purse, fur on. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I just think that those two. And what else says Detroit? I think the men and women hair, like we are really big on hair.
Yes.
Like hair is like a piece of the fashion here.
Yes.
But women hair is always gonna be right. The men's hair and beard gonna always be right. Like, I mean, we the hair capital.
Oh,
No matter who moves and
no
leaves.
matter who's. It's so funny. I was on TikTok and somebody was giving Cash Star her dues. So she's like the queen of Detroit hair.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
never saw her with a bad hair day.
Well,
She
no, her
is
best friend does her hair.
Yes,
Yeah, so, yeah.
it's like you said, it's a certain style, and I
Yeah.
agree with the furs, the buffs, and the
Yeah.
Tims.
It's a flashiness. And then it's still kind of like it's a hood, but then it's a classiness. And more hood on the classy, but yeah,
So 80s.
Okay.
What would you describe the staple piece for the 80s? Because that was prime.
I was a kid, but I still remember. So if it was going closer to the end of the 80s, it was more. That's when Logomania kind of came about. To me, 80s is synonymous with leather. It's a lot of leather. Leather skirts, women with leather skirts, men with leather, full-on leather outfits. A lot of leather with fur on the end, leather with denim on the end. It was just a lot of leather. The 80s was like luxe. It was silk. It was leather. It was snakeskin. It was, patent leather. It was. It depends on where you were going. If you were going to a cabaret, then you were dressed up.
And for those of our watchers who are not from Detroit, how do you describe cabaret to them? Because a lot of people don't know about cabaret.
So cabaret would be like BYOB. So like New Yorkers call it a bashment, Jamaicans call it a bashment, or they might call it back then they might have had a party at a apartment and everybody was there. So it's just like that, but it's just basically an open event space. And everybody put on their best clothes to upstage one another, how Detroiters do.
So, and speaking of staple decades, BMF, Black Mafia Family. How you're you work on set? So, what's your title on there?
I was the assistant to the costume designer. Yeah.
So, how did that major opportunity come about?
So I tried to get on the first season, but I know that a lot of stuff isn't picked from here. So quick story, a young lady named Kenyatta drives Uber, and she was picking up her Uber client like most people do, and it wound up being the producer for BMF. So instead of her even plugging herself, she was like, my homeboy Marv is a fashion stylist. He do costume design. I had just did 2 movies. And she was like, you need to get with him. He's really, really good. He knows his stuff. And that era is really his thing. He loves the 80s and the 90s. So the lady was like, oh, give him my email. Shot her my email. And then maybe 2 weeks later, they came back and they started filming in April. And they called me. And they were like, well, Kia is, of course, the main, but we would love to have you come on. and help out the best way you can. So I was kind of like their Detroit liaison to all of the stores here that they couldn't get to.
So, being that we're way past the 80s,
Uh-huh.
how do you guys, because it's like a lot of people that watch it that was there that time, they say it was very accurate.
It was.
So, how do you like pull these outfits, or what's the process into getting the materials and the pieces?
Well, a lot of the stuff that they are wearing is authentic. So it's stuff that's people have that's was sitting in their closet, or a lot of vintage stores had. So Kia Bounds does an amazing job. Her and her team does an amazing job with sourcing. It's about sourcing.
So,
So
it's
you
not,
may have like 9 months. So like the season's on now, so I'm sure they're sourcing for.
oh, so it's like months
It's
to get the
yeah.
clothes.
So
again.
I shot for 5 days. They may have shot like a week before I got there, and then maybe like 2 weeks after. So it's maybe like a month of shooting for 9 or 10 episodes, 12 episodes. But you got all the rest of the year to source. You need a Coogee, you need leather pants, you need, you go to the thrift store, you get somebody to make something, you get somebody to take something in, you get somebody to recreate it, you know what I mean? And they have a lot of, from the BMF family and the Flournoy brothers, a lot of their old pictures. So they went off their old pictures that they would wear.
I always thought like for a lot of time period pieces, they just made it by hand. Like
A lot of stuff they remake. But by this being, that was so like 80s was so at that time for BMF at the end was so hip hoppy. It's hard to recreate that kind of stuff, but a lot of people have that stuff kind of around, like Lecoq Sportif, jogging suits is kind of coming back, so they kind of can get the people to that swishy tracksuit like Cash Doll been having. You can kind of find that stuff thrift stores and then New York and LA and in between whatever city they stop at. They do a good job, and then it's the internet. The internet helps with a lot of that. I see she buys a lot of things from it's a page called Macopolis, and they do a lot of the street legend stories on their Instagram page, and then they'll be selling like Coogies and old Gucci gym shoes and all of that stuff that old Gucci purses for the girls, or the airbrush tees. So they get it's a lot of different ways. You just have to source it. You have to be resourceful.
It just takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. You have to know where to look.
And a lot of people I feel like a lot of people overlook the importance of styling
Oh,
for
yeah, they do.
film and television. Why is it important, and how it contributes to the storytelling and the characters?
Well, it makes it more believable when people believe, back to the beginning of the conversation, when you feel good, and especially if you're doing a period piece, it makes people believe what you're trying to sell them when you have the look correct. So if you're talking about, like, let's say, for instance, BMF or the Wu-Tang series, where it's like a heavy period, where it's hip-hop influence and it's 80s and 90s, if you don't have the tall, 40 below Timberlands, or the right correct Timberlands, or the right polo shirt or Tommy Hilfiger, to give the audience something to be like, oh, I remember that, I wore that, or oh, we used to rock that. If you're not giving the audience that, then they're not going to believe the story, because they know that Wu-Tang used to dress like this, or BMF was coming like this because they were going to Van Dyke's, or the Pontchartrain, or where all of these different places that had bars and stuff in the 80s. So where you had to dress up. So you had to go to the Fox with your full-length mink coat on. So you might not be able to find the mink in that same color, but you can build around that, that feel with the, with a look. Gotta have the gators, gotta have the mink.
Okay, the Gators.
Yeah. So yeah, they did a good job.
What about the gold jewelry?
They did a good job with the gold jewelry, because it was that time. Nugget rings and big, Dookie chains and Gucci links, and they did a good job.
Go to from like the past to the present,
okay.
just real quick, because it was such a huge staple. Like everybody have a picture of their mom or their dad back in the '80s at the cabaret.
Yeah.
So how would you describe the difference of fashion, Detroit staple fashion today versus back in that time period? I feel like we still have our own, but it's just a different.
I think back then it was just, so now it's 20 years or 30 years later, so it's all coming back. But back then it was new. So like the power shoulder was new. The silk shirt was kind of like a new thing. The leather skirt was like a new thing. Like everything was kind of like this, this moving out of the 70s, where the 70s might have had 70s chic, but it was more platforms and this and that. Now you have women are wearing the, 4-inch, 5-inch pump with that may be crocodile. And then if they wearing mink, it's not cut like 70s style. It's cut big shoulder pads on the inside, it's cut a certain kind of way. So it's kind of the same thing now. It's just now the pumps that may have been $40 are now Christian Louboutin. You know what I mean? Or the mink coat back then was maybe Dietrich. Now it's your mother's old mink coat, or you going to whatever fur place to get it redone. So I think some things is just, they live where they are. Like, people just like what they like. So the then versus now is kind of like the same. I mean, black people, we gonna put it on,
And we're gonna make it look good.
We're gonna make it look good. So it's kind of hard to say, because a lot of that stuff is back. A lot of that stuff is in. So
fashion's always repeat itself.
Always repeating itself. I'm at the age now where I've seen, like, in high school, the 70s was back. So everything was like, this kind of, the patent leather and the bubble shoes and the heels with the platform on the front. And then it moved, once I graduated, it started being like more 80s. Now it's more 90s, you know what I mean? So, it kind of all comes back around.
No, that's true. So you done TV.
Okay.
And you done film as well.
Yes.
To live and die and live. That's one journey.
Yeah.
Can you talk about your experience working on that film and your role with that?
Okay, so that was so it just was nominated, or it just showed at Sundance, the Sundance Film Festival. It is a Qasim film. I can't think of Qasim last name. Don't kill me, Qasim. But he is a director that all his films usually show at Sundance. They usually have a great kind of story, but it's kind of, this one is autobiographical. Kind of like about his life. And the lead costume designer, which is Tanja the Shoe Lady, she called me to assist her. She really was like partner, because she was like, I know you don't usually assist. And I was like, well, no, I know you. So yeah, I was just, I don't have a problem. I don't have a way about me about stuff like that. Like, I'm too good to do, like, I'm not that guy. So it was just kind of like, she called me and asked me would I help her. At that time, it was summer of 2021. I didn't have much going on. I was kind of chilling. It was still kind of COVID-y. So I was like, yeah, I'll come do it. How long is it? She like 18 days. I'm like, oh, Lord, how long is it going to be? So first I was like, well, it can't be too bad. We'll see how it's going to be. And then what killed it was she sent me the script on Saturday night. Sunday night, we started filming Monday and didn't have no clothes.
Wow.
So every day, we were ordering from Zara and getting it shipped the next day, shipping, and buying 2 of what we can find, because SAG actors have to have 2 of each thing. So we wound up pulling it off. Qasim had grabbed a lot of stuff from H&M of what he thought he would wear. I had a lot of stuff at home, a lot of shoes that were like brand new, Vince shoes and stuff, because the lead is uncle. The uncle from Snowfall. So he's playing Qasim. I can't think of his name. Don't kill me about that either. But he's playing Qasim. And, it was a small cast, but it was filmed correctly. And they did a good job. We filmed it all around Detroit.
Oh, so it was filmed in Detroit?
It was filmed in Detroit. Yeah, filmed in Detroit. And, yeah, I mean, it was cool.
Wow.
Cool. Just the only thing I could say about that, it was like every day I was literally at the mall early in the morning. Mall
Shopping.
doors open at 11. I was there.
How did it feel to shop for work versus shop for fun?
I mean, I don't never look at fashion as really work. You know what I mean? It can be. It started getting tiresome when you pass the 10-hour mark. You know what I mean? I'll say that when you're on set or something like that, it started getting a little like, you're ready to go lay down like anybody else. But to see it when it's done, you kind of be like, it was worth it.
Yes. And being that an 18-day work hour set versus 5 days is a major difference.
Yeah, it's a big
so what is the difference in experience from styling for film versus television, and which one you prefer?
So I haven't, television was Well, BMF is a stars thing, so it's a bigger budget. So as soon as I walked into the casino, um, the lead gave me a stars debit card. Like I didn't have to sign for anything. It was just like, okay, hon, take this card, get whatever you need to get, send us pictures, see you later. You know what I mean? It was kind of like that.
Like go crazy.
Yeah, go crazy. Like this is what we're looking for. Go get black shoes. Hit it. You know what I mean? So that was the difference because it was a bigger budget. When it was versus for the movie To Live and To Die, it was every day. It was 8 hours. Separate call time, so it might have been 7 one morning, 9 the next day, 12 the next day. But it was a lot of SAG artists and SAG just like BMF, so a lot of them had to have certain kind of precautions. Like it was COVID, so we had to all be COVID tested every day. We got tested every day. You know what I mean? So just little stuff that was like the difference, but it wasn't a lot. It was just like one was just 5 days and the other one was 18.
And for those who not aware about film terms, SAG is unionized.
Yes, SAG is unionized. Yeah.
So it's like a lot of rules they have to follow.
Yeah, they have to have like 2 outfits. At that time, it was COVID. Still, COVID was going on, so it was. We tested every day, and we had to wear a mask every day, all while we were on set. Yeah.
So when you're not on set for film or television, you have a fashion line.
Yeah.
Genius Denim. So so can you describe how that came about and
So
what made you get in jeans?
Yeah, so it's mostly denim stuff. Genius Denim is it was just a name of my blog. So that was the name of my blog when I after I broke my ankle and I needed a place to put all of my it was really my first portfolio. So I would blog about my photo shoots, put the pictures up there, just blogging when blogging kind of hit big. And I was like, okay, well, I'll name it Genius Denim and put it on Blogspot. And then my god sister was kind of one of the first ones that was wearing my pants or denim outside of myself wearing it. But people will always, because at that time it wasn't really like Parasuco or anything like that. It was kind of like just, fashion kind of get in there where it's kind of like you don't know what's going on with the style. And I just named it Genius Denim, and it's all denim, men and women stuff that I do. That's usually old Levi. Some stuff comes from, I have a vendor that I get some things from. But just really custom one-offs, one or twos.
So how do you balance everything? This is a lot.
It's a lot.
But Detroiters, we're hustlers.
Yeah, we hustlers.
We make it happen.
Yeah, we make it
but
happen. All on top of working and still working a job.
So how do you what's your method in keeping everything together, still supporting your dreams and still just keep making it happen?
I mean, I think you just have to be realistic with yourself and know what it is that you want to do. I'm at the age where nobody's going to pay for me, pay for my bills, so you have to pay your bills. The big jobs that I want aren't always here. So if they come here and someone knows that they're coming, I'll get a check like that. But majority of the time, it's kind of like, it's a lot of work to get work. So a lot of podcasts, sitting down with people telling your story. It's a lot of, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. It's a lot of, you don't have to, you reaching because you are in Detroit. So you're not in New York, you're not in LA, you're not in Atlanta. So, I mean, it's not hard. It's just that we kind of get accustomed to what it is that we do, you know. You got to do what you got to do.
Okay.
So, I mean, hey.
So what do you see your brand and your journey going to in the future, 5 to 10 years from now?
Oh, man, I've done so much. I would love to be, I would love to have an Emmy for costume design.
Okay, I can see it.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. You heard it here now. He's spoken to existence.
And I would love to have a little, I would love to have a ingenue or a male that's an artist, whether it's movie or film, that I dress for red carpet, press junkets, even if it's a rapper or singer that has international appeal, that's willing to push the fashion boundary. So yeah, I would love to have that kind of going for myself. I'm trying to get agency represented this year. Because I do a lot on my own, and I've done a lot, but I need like one of those big agencies out of LA or New York to take my portfolio and push it.
And just put it out there. Because agencies will give you that extra push.
Yeah, they give me the extra push.
And for people that's watching that want to get into what you're doing, what advice would you give them?
Ask questions. And show up on time. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people get caught in the celebrity stylist moniker and all of that. Like, I get called that, but I don't call myself that, and I still show up to what I'm asked to come to. And just be prepared. If you are booked to work, booked for 3 outfits, bring 5. You know, if you only supposed to bring 4 pair of shoes, bring 8. You know, just always have more than what you're asked of. It goes a lot of way with your client. And just be willing to work and listen. Listen plays a. You listen, make sure you read those emails correctly, and slow down. You'll make it happen.
No, those are some real good gems.
Yeah.
And before we close out, my final question would be, if you can talk to your younger self that was like, I want to get into fashion, what would you say to young Marv?
Young Marv, how old is the young Marv?
The age where young Marv made the decision he wanted to get into fashion.
You know what? It's a blessing. I'm the young Marv is talking to his 42-year-old self now every day.
Wow.
Because what I wanted to do is actually what I'm doing. You know, that's kind of like anybody that really knows me. I grew up 2 blocks over, 4 blocks over on Chandler. My grandmother's house was on Chandler. They know that this is what I wanted to do. I was always a fly, little chunky boy. My mother and them kept me fresh, and I wanted to make sure that everybody else got fresh. So, only thing I probably would tell myself is move to New York. That's probably like the only thing I would probably tell myself that I wanted to do back then. At 18, I would say 18, move to New York. But I feel like this is the way that it was supposed to be. I think in life, everything is how it's supposed to be. I think you could change the course of it, but changing it winds up being how it's supposed to be. Yep.
No, that's real. But we appreciate you keeping Detroiters fly.
I'm trying.
And keeping it authentic, keeping it Detroit.
You got to. You have to.
So thank you so much. Where can people find you and keep up with your journey and your fashions?
On Instagram, it's just Marv Neal, MarvNeal. My website is www.marvneal.com. And Facebook, it's Marv Neal everywhere. You can Google me.
Awesome. Well, you know where to find Marv. If you want to find me, I'm on Instagram at Cynthia LaShawn. And thank you guys so much for watching Take TV. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. This was great.
Hope you got some good info.
No, this was good. Like, I was like, oh, that was some gems. I'm taking mental notes.